Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
We are now more than a week into the latest federal government shutdown. Thanks for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Sanchez, in for Maya Trabulsi. TSA agents and air traffic controllers are still working without pay, but airports across the country are starting to feel the effects of staffing shortages. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer takes a look at what that might mean for our region.
So far, it's business as usual at San Diego International Airport. But airport spokeswoman Nicole Hall says there could be delays if federal staffing constraints intensify. At other nearby airports, it's been a different story. On Monday, the Hollywood Burbank Airport had no air traffic controllers on site for about 6 hours. Former air traffic controller Kevin Carpe says it surprised him.
I have never come across where no one was available to staff a control tower during a furlough or a shutdown.
Air traffic control was passed on to Southern California TRACON here in San Diego. Controllers there coordinated with pilots arriving and departing from Burbank Airport.
But knowing what the redundancy of those procedures are, I was confident that, safety was going to be maintained.
There were still significant delays, and while operations are now back to normal at Burbank, Carpe says Monday's staffing shortage is emblematic of a system-wide problem. He says there have been staffing shortages for decades, and a government shutdown can make things worse.
If, again, if you have multiple people sick, it just slows the system down.
Carpe has been through 2 government shutdowns himself. He says it's stressful to work during a shutdown.
It's all the resources that you have normally are not available to you, whether it's staffing in the actual control room or the control tower may not be there.
And then there's the lack of income.
It's very frustrating. And if you're living where you need that paycheck, and many people do, how you have to look into who is going to wait for their payment, what bill is due.
KPBS reached out to the FAA for comment. We got this automated response. Due to a lapse in funding, the FAA is not responding to routine media inquiries. A statement on their website says there have been increased staffing shortages across the system. When that happens, the FAA slows traffic into some airports to ensure safe operations. Carpe says if the shutdown continues, expect more flight delays nationwide.
Yeah, it definitely will increase as we go forward. With the lack of all the support that I was talking about, with the lack of availability.
For now, San Diego Airport is asking passengers to check their flight status before arriving and allow extra time for security screening. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
When the government shut down 8 days ago, thousands of workers were furloughed. Others are working without pay, and now President Trump is calling for mass layoffs and is suggesting some workers might not receive back pay when the shutdown ends. Julia Benbrook has an update from Washington.
While it is typical to see some government workers furloughed during a government shutdown, the White House is looking to make the impact of this lapse in funding more permanent. The threat of mass firings looms large, and while speaking in the Oval Office this week, President Donald Trump said that he would soon announce which government programs he intends to eliminate amid the funding standoff.
We'll be announcing it pretty soon, but we have a lot of things that we're going to eliminate and permanently eliminate.
He also said he is considering not giving back pay to all federal employees once the government shutdown ends. In his remarks, Trump offered no clarity about which workers he might not protect, but added there are, quote, some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of.
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people.
That move would be a remarkable break from precedent. And it's not just Democrats pushing against it. Several top GOP leaders have distanced themselves from Trump's idea, as they've made it clear they support back pay for government workers. An increasing number of Republican lawmakers have also acknowledged the potential political perils of implementing mass layoffs of federal workers at this time. At the White House, I'm Julia Benbrook.
Well, not too many changes overnight. We're dropping down into the low 60s. We're going to stay clear. A few clouds making their way in, but the changes really arrive starting tomorrow when we see more rainfall moving in. I know we've already seen more than our fair share the last few weeks, but I'll break down exactly what to expect and how long the rain will last coming up.
Federal prosecutors have arrested a person they say started the fire that became one of the costliest disasters in California history. Jonathan Rinderknecht faced a judge in Florida today on a criminal complaint of destruction of property. He's accused of intentionally setting a fire in Pacific Palisades on the morning of January 1st. A week later, the Palisades fire ignited. 12 people died and thousands of buildings were destroyed. Law enforcement is providing details on what led to the suspect's arrest, and LA's mayor is reacting to the news.
The allegations in the affidavit are supported by digital evidence, including the defendant's ChatGPT prompt of a dystopian painting showing in part a burning forest and a crowd fleeing from it. That fire started on January 1st, and it smoldered underground for about a week until on January 7th, heavy winds caused this underground fire to surface and spread above ground, causing what became known as the Palisades Fire. Geolocation data for the 911 calls showed that he was standing above the fire in a clearing merely 30 feet from the blaze as it rapidly grew.
This is a day that we need to all think about what happened 9 months ago. And to me, it doesn't bring any closure, but hopefully it's the first step toward justice.
And this is video from that initial fire on January 1st. Prosecutors say Rinderknecht was living in Pacific Palisades at the time and was working as an Uber driver when he set the fire. San Diego is preparing to update its rules on historic preservation. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says it's an effort to balance preservation with the need to build more housing.
Historic districts are meant to preserve pristine examples of an architectural style that was important to San Diego's history. Critics say they limit the ability to build desperately needed housing, particularly in wealthy neighborhoods. One of the proposed changes would give the city council more authority to overturn historic designations they disagree with. At a virtual workshop on Wednesday, Sharon Gale said that's more democratic.
A de novo appeal process would allow the city council, who were elected by the majority of voters, to consider all aspects of a decision and to do what is best for everyone in the city.
Another proposed change would limit who can appeal a decision made by the city's Historic Resources Board. Barry Hager, with the preservation group Mission Hills Heritage, said gems of history should be preserved, even if the property owner objects.
The proposed reforms are really moving us towards a system where only designations with the owner's consent will occur. And while that may be the goal of some, that's really not the best practice for historic preservation.
The first of two packages of reforms is set to go before the City Council in January. Later in 2026, the Council will consider changes to the property tax breaks given to historic buildings. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Taxes on second homes, combining police departments, the city taking over the power company. There was a lot of news this weekend at Voice of San Diego's PolitiFest. In our Why It Matters segment, Voice of San Diego CEO Scott Lewis has a rundown.
Saturday, we put on our annual PolitiFest, and who wouldn't want to go to a festival of local politics on a sunny Saturday, am I right? Each panelist presented solutions to a local problem, and the winner was voted on by the audience. Let's go through 3 top news nuggets that dropped at the event and why they matter. Number 1, Council President Seanilo Rivera just led the successful effort to raise the minimum wage for some tourism and event venue employees. He won his solutions showdown at PolitiFest by proposing a new tax on second homes and a fee for non-residents to enter Mission Bay Park. He said his office is going to draft a new ordinance for the tax. He said the city already has the data on which homes are being used for a second home or vacation rental, and the money would go to infrastructure and childcare. Number 2, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria didn't win his session, but he did make some news. He wants to take over the Harbor Police. The idea is to bolster the police department. Right now, the Harbor Police patrol San Diego Bay on behalf of the 5 cities that surround it. He also wants to use police drones and have artificial intelligence do police work. And number 3, a group has been working for years to force the city of San Diego to buy or seize power lines from SDG&E. They say SDG&E takes 20% as profit, and the city could use that money to lower bills and provide other community benefits. But this group doesn't actually want the city to do it. The leader, Bill Powers, won his solution showdown, and he agreed, though, with a critic on the panel that the city could not be trusted with this responsibility. He argued there are other districts or ways to create a community power company. Over and over, presenters came back to the issue of trust in the city of San Diego and how much it has eroded. These proposals show just how bad it's gotten. I'm Scott Lewis for Voice of San Diego, and that's why it matters.
Voice of San Diego is one of our partners for the Public Matters Initiative. You can learn more at kpbs.org/Public Matters.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, former FBI Director James Comey is arraigned in federal court. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is a popular Mexican tradition devoting to celebrating death, life, and memories of the departed. This year, KPBS is again hosting a digital community offerenda, or altar, where you can submit a memory celebrating a loved one who has passed away. If you have a remembrance you want to share, all you need to do is submit it through our website, kpbs.org/Day of the Dead. Submissions will be accepted through October 23rd. The San Diego Filipino Film Festival opens tomorrow night with its Magic Hour meet and greet, followed by 3 days of films. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando previews the condensed festival.
For its 4th year, the San Diego Filipino Film Festival has shortened its run, but still goes all in on celebrating diverse Filipino voices through film, says programmer Sammy Andico.
Actually, we had over 100 submissions for this year's film festival, ranging from different shorts from regional areas of the Philippines and all over the world, like Canada and Europe.
So it's a diverse group of voices, Filipino voices from all over.
One of the voices that started the festival is Benito Batista.
This is our office, San Diego Filipino Cinema is the presenter of the San Diego Filipino Film Festival. Our office is actually open for mentoring young filmmakers, emerging filmmakers, and also incubating with ideas for film with producers. We also do the programming here, the start of programming and operation for the San Diego Filipino Film Festival.
This year, Batista will host a community screening of his documentary, The Road to Sydney, about Philippine dance master and choreographer Sydney Loyola, who faced discrimination following her gender affirmation.
It's an expression of dance as an art form, a support system, a sort of a haven for counseling and healing, especially for the trans community. And you can see the evolution of Sydney as a human being as well.
I want to create movement in that music. I want to recreate that memory being performed by a person of a Filipino heritage, but her technique is Western. So I want to incorporate that Western technique to the traditional form. You can learn from the Western world, but never lose your roots. Because your roots makes you the being that you are today. I present to you the living legend, Zenaida.
The festival also hosts multiple shorts programs with films like Zenaida.
I haven't been in a long time.
I'm not gonna have you talk like that, madame.
It then closes Sunday with the feature Sunshine, about a young gymnast facing complications on her road to the Olympics.
Sunshine was actually, in the beginning, was banned in the Philippines because it talks about abortion. We don't have abortion in the Philippines. It's a story of a young woman who is now going to compete in the Olympics for ballet and ribbon dance. And she has a dilemma because she's going to have a baby.
You're Sunshine, Olympian.
Once again, the San Diego Filipino Film Festival offers plenty to choose from. But this year, it's all packed into one long weekend. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
Well, Game Time Decision is a new KPBS video series exploring the world of youth sports. This episode tackles the sport of football. KPBS video journalist Mikey Damron talked to experts about the truths and myths surrounding injuries in the country's most popular as well as polarizing sport.
Most people think it's just the game. It's not the game. It's the lessons. It's the things that correlate directly to life that sports can provide, and football in particular, because it is so team dependent. You know, all 11 guys on the field depend on each other. Things just don't go right if the other 10 aren't doing their job.
Down, set, hut.
Since Dorian was born, I've always had football around him at some point. Whether it's us watching, you know, college football together, he's always had a football jersey, uniform I always put in. We watched games together, even, you know, me just holding on to him in front of the TV watching football.
Look. Who's that? That's that Tom Brady, huh?
When Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl, you know, there's pictures of me tossing him in the air because we had a really cool father-son moment together. We watched, you know, Tom Brady win the Super Bowl for Tampa Bay. His favorite football players, Tom Brady, as he got older, he wanted to, you know, get the helmet. He's got the helmet now, and he just wants to run around and play.
But to be honest, up until this point, I just always romanticized about Dorian playing football. But now that he's getting to the age that he's actually going to start playing, that all changes for me now.
Now I really have to start thinking about, should he participate in a sport that we really both love?
And whether the health risks are just too high.
Now another Bills player is down.
All the statistics about head injuries, the Damar Hamlin injury, I mean, it all really gives me pause. So to help me make that decision, I talked to coaches, youth football officials, athletic trainers, and doctors to help me make an educated decision.
Why should you let your kid play football? It's pretty simple. Hard work, discipline, accountability, commitment, learning what competition is, how to compete, learning what team is, how to rely on people, how to be relied on. The list is so long, you know, it would take all day.
But for all the pluses also comes the minuses. Injuries.
Preparing your kid to play football is a little bit, it's like preparing to be a gladiator warrior, right? Like you never know what the competition is going to bring. You can only provide them with the, you know, the utility of like the pads and the helmet and the understanding and the know-how, the coaching and all those things that go into it, right? There's only so much you can do as a parent. It's spread of age group, somewhere between like, you know, 5 and 18. There's going to be a big like range of the type of injuries that you can see. On the little kid side of things, as they're getting to Pop Warner, all that, you don't tend to see the kind of dislocation or instability event kind of injuries. You tend to see more like they broke their ankle, broke their arm, that kind of stuff. So a lot of times you'll come in, it'd be no different than if they were, you know, riding on a skateboard or playing at a trampoline park. As you get kind of closer into that like middle school kind of range, or junior high as we call it now, you start getting into where they can actually start having those instability events. Now when I'm talking about instability, I mean that could be things like tearing your anterior cruciate ligament, like your ACL, dislocating a kneecap, popping your ankle out of place, definitely popping a shoulder in and out of place. And so you can start to see a lot of those.
What about everybody's football boogeyman? Concussions. I know there's a lot of risks in football. What's really important is to understand how they happen and what to look for and what to do if your kid suffers a concussion.
So really simply, a concussion is a mild traumatic brain injury that results from a hit to the head, neck, or body. And those forces transmit up to the brain and result in or initiate a neurotransmitter and metabolic cascade. That's a really kind of sciencey way of saying, and when I talk to parents, I usually say it's a hit to the head, neck, or body, so you have to have some sort of mechanism. And then it's distinguishing if the patient or the athlete just feels abnormal. You don't necessarily have to understand all the signs and symptoms associated with a concussion, but if they seem abnormal, if they're saying things that make them seem like they, have a headache, they're feeling dizzy, nauseous, feeling in a fog, or if they just feel abnormal in any way, take them to a healthcare provider and certainly remove them from play.
Life for a kid has its risks, and concussions are one of them.
And that was just part of the story produced by KPBS lead video journalist Mikey Dameron. You can watch the full episode at kpbs.org/gametime. San Diego could get some rain in the days ahead as remnants of Tropical Storm Priscilla move through the southwest. The storm generated these waves in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Some areas are dealing with flooding and wind damage. Forecasters say some areas east of San Diego could see a month's worth of rain within days as Priscilla combines with another storm system.
Well, if you've been keeping an eye on the Pacific and the storms that we've been tracking there, Priscilla will sound familiar to you. If not, that's okay. The thing to know is the moisture from what will have been Priscilla is going to start moving in tomorrow. Now, as we look ahead to the weekend, temperatures are going to drop, and then we're tracking more rain chances next week. So let's break it down step by step here, starting with our overnight conditions. A lot of us in the 50s, 57 in Oceanside, though 63 in San Diego. You can see clouds moving in for many of us, but we're staying mostly clear overnight. As we look ahead to tomorrow, you'll see the clouds increase. Now, as far as the rain chances, it's going to be better at our higher elevations and our mountains, even into some of our desert regions. So you'll notice the rain icons in Brigo Springs, the thunderstorms in Mount Laguna, but we do see rain all the way to the coast. It's just those better chances, especially of the thunderstorms, into areas like Brigo Springs and at Mount Laguna. Temperature-wise, we're in the 70s and the 80s. Now, here's the overall footprint of what's going on. We get an influx of that tropical moisture from Priscilla. Everybody in green, that's where we're highlighting for the best chances of the showers and the thunderstorms. Now, maybe we see some flash flooding. However, the bigger flash flooding risk, that's further to our east. It's further inland. So overall, when we're talking about rain totals, we're talking about less than an inch for most of us. It's the rainfall rates where we get into trouble. If we get all of that in about half an hour, then maybe we see some ponding, some flash flooding. But overall, it's beneficial rainfall, even though we've had plenty of rainfall in the last few weeks. Let's take a look at how it plays out on future radar here. You can see the first wave moving into Thursday morning. Maybe you wake up to a few showers. Keep that in mind for your morning commute. We get better rain chances as we head into the evening hours, a little bit more widespread. A few maybe heavy downpours, but overall, remember, rainfall totals we're talking about less than an inch for most of us. Taking a look at your 5-day outlook, the showers fade by the time we get into the weekend, especially. Temperatures dropping back down into the 70s for the coast. A little bit more pronounced temperature drops as we head further inland. 86 Friday to 78 on your Saturday. We head into our mountain regions. More of the rainfall Friday. It's a little bit slower to exit here. And then we're back into the 50s by the time we get to Saturday. In our desert regions, well, same deal. Friday, we still have the shower and thunderstorm risk. Temperature-wise, we're not seeing as much of a drop from Friday to Saturday, and so we go from 90 Thursday to 86 by the time we get to our Friday. For KPBS News, I'm AccuWeather's Anna Azalian.
Well, we need that rain. Bob Ross was a public media staple for decades, and now his original paintings will support stations like KPBS. The auction house Bonhams says 30 of Bob Ross's paintings will be sold at various auctions. The money raised will support public television, where viewers watched Ross's TV series, The Joy of Painting. Federal funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting ended last month. The first Bob Ross auction is set for November 11th. Business cycles are measured by more than GDP and unemployment rates. Sometimes hidden factors play a role in consumer sentiment. Ivan Rodriguez talked with experts who shared some insight on what to watch for in today's economy.
By traditional measures, the U.S. economy, even with its sticky inflation and softening labor market, is stable.
They're not great. They could definitely be better. They could definitely be worse.
Despite the sustained pressure of high prices shaking consumer confidence, Americans are also still spending. But there is a widening spending gap between high and low income consumers. And signs revealing how people are spending their money may be changing.
We've delayed car purchases some. Appliances, electronics, we've slowed down on that. Travel, we've slowed down on that.
Virginia Tech economics professor Jadrian Wooten points to less obvious indicators of economic discomfort, like cardboard box manufacturing, which is down 9% in 2025 amid U.S. factory closures and cutbacks.
If cardboard box manufacturers were not making as many boxes, that meant that stores were not ordering as many boxes because they didn't anticipate selling as many products in the future.
This week, the price of gold surged past $4,000 per ounce, another possible red flag for the state of affairs.
People are trying to invest money in something that they feel is going to be really stable. And a lot of people do run to gold whenever the markets are a little bit uncertain.
Wooten says even though many are worried about what lies ahead, the health of the U.S. economy relies on its consumers.
If a lot of people think a recession is coming, they're going to pull back on spending. And one of the problems with that is when they pull back on spending, that's actually what ends up causing the recession to happen.
I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Sanchez. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.